All right. Hello. My name is James from the Nerdy Bible, and with me tonight, as always, is Mike from Showboys Media. How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Nothing. I'm just proud of you for nailing that on the first try. That
Yeah.
was it was so good.
Yeah. So we're both pretty slap happy. It's definitely not 9:30, 9:45 at night, and we're definitely awake. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
welcome to the podcast where we're going over The Chosen. So if you follow Showboys Media, you're going to recognize it as the companion series for The Chosen. And if you're on the Nerdy Bible, it's just The Chosen series. So we're not really creative over here now. But yeah, so tonight we got pretty excited about it. It is season 2, episode 8.
The
So we
finale.
are here,
Mm-hmm.
man. Which is like, I don't know, at this point, it being released. Actually, this for me, if you're listening to this, that means that season 3 was already released, or at least the first episode has already been released. Actually, I think for the same for Mike. So
Time
wherever you're listening to
travel.
this, yes, season 3 has been released. Well, it was released in theaters. I did get to see it. Mike did not.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing
Um,
it in.
yeah, no, absolutely. I'll just so Mike did not, and no, but so at this point though, it's live. I mean, this you've seen it, well, or potentially, had the potential to see it.
Yeah,
The
man.
first
Oh, that
episode.
first episode was amazing. Holy cow. It's just
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah.
That's future me talking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so tired that I was confused. Um, no, so yeah, no, season 2, episode 8. It's like we're finally here, man. Like
Mhm.
it's like it's just we're finally here. This is exciting. Um,
It's
so
been
why
quite
don't
a journey for us.
it has,
Yeah.
about I don't know, what is it about? We'll just say we'll estimate it to about an hour each episode played. So 16 hours in, and we've I think podcasted about like 52 hours. So like so
Yeah,
we're
and just for, you know, date wow, holy crap. The Anchor not being on night mode, I just looked up and I'm like,
it's
I'm
like
glowing. Uh,
I'll show
and
you a trick later, remind me, for
okay,
Google.
I
And
will
I'll
do
just
that.
actually, if everyone wants to know, we can all stick around together
There you go.
and
That'll
I'll
be
show you
our
some
our
cool.
Easter egg after the episode.
Yes, sir.
So if you're looking date-wise, we
Mhm.
started episode 0, the first episode that we published for The Chosen, August 30th. It is now
August 30th,
December.
December. Man,
It's
yeah,
been quite a journey.
it has. Um, yeah. And you know what? We were talking, we have some consistent listeners.
Mhm.
Which is pretty exciting. So,
Yeah,
bravo to you.
thank you.
Seriously. Just
Means a lot.
take a second, give it we appreciate. No, seriously though, we do appreciate you listening.
Oh,
It's been fun. Really enjoyed these talks. You
yeah,
know,
it's super
any
cool too because like the whole reason that we did this is about to happen. Season 3. Like
Yeah. Well,
it's all led up to our very next not very next because we're doing the Christmas. But it's all led up to what is coming soon.
yeah.
And I think that for me, not that I haven't, I mean, recapping, everything up to season 3 has been really fun and really like um eye-opening to me because
Mhm.
like we've gone over in past episodes, like watching it with the intent of doing a podcast afterwards has made me
More observant,
yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of watch it with just more intent. Um, and I've gotten so much out of this watch. If you've, yeah, listened to all the other episodes, I'm sure you've noticed our uh, live
Mhm.
revelations we're having with each other. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just been the catching up to this point has been fun, but man, I am like super excited to cover like brand new material.
Yeah, well, I think that's been the goal. We knew we were behind. I mean, this show has been coming out. I mean, it was like middle of Rona, right? Yeah, no, it
Mhm.
was like I remember, being so excited when the episodes were coming out. And, I do remember the one time, it was like I was pretty jacked, but he came on with the episode and he's like, awesome. And here you go. And here's the next episode. And he was just like, you didn't think that was what was about to happen. And he released the two that same night. And so it was pretty awesome. But yeah, no, I mean, so we knew we were catching up with this. And so now I think the intent is like, you know, Dallas is going to come out and say, hey, episode's being released, and we're going to put on our our reporter jacket and run out the door, like it's
Yeah.
like it's time to record our podcast. So I think that's going to make it more exciting, more relevant, more
Mhm.
new. And so just like we're a newscast following the the
Yeah.
new episode. I just it'd be pretty fun. So I think in the next few weeks we'll be really catching up to season 3, and then from here to the end of the show, like it's on, man. New episode come, and everything goes to the wayside. We record an episode, so
Yep.
stay tuned.
Perfect. You want to get into the synopsis here?
Yeah, let's hear it. It's your favorite
All
part
right.
of the night. Let's do it.
My final one for season 2.
Yeah, any real big names in it that you gotta
I
pronounce?
hope not. I didn't
Okay.
pre-read. I don't know if you could tell in my live reads, but I don't ever
We're
pre-read these.
doing it live. Yeah.
Okay, so a business. Oh, by the way, this is episode 8 of season 2, called Beyond Mountains. A businessman and his apprentice take advantage of a land as they negotiate with the owner. Jesus and Matthew prepare the content of the big sermon, organizing the sayings and teachings. As Tamar joins the group, the disciples continue to bicker and fight amongst themselves. The disciples spread the word of the upcoming sermon and arrange things for its location on the mount. Shammai, a high-ranking Sanhedrin member and rival of Shimon, is shocked by Shmuel and Yanni's reports on Jesus. Jesus discusses to Matthew. I love how it says to Matthew and not with Matthew, which I think I'm going to pause here. Is intentional
We're
and
getting
very
into it.
important use of word there.
Yeah, we're
which
getting
we'll
into
dig
it.
into that.
Oh yeah, that was the pinnacle argument, not argument, but
Yeah.
that was the debate between my wife and I.
Yes.
So
Jesus discusses to Matthew the sections of the sermon, such as salt and light of the world, leading to the Beatitudes as the introduction of the sermon. On the day of the sermon, thousands arrive, including some familiar faces. Eden reunites with Simon, while Big James and John reunite with their parents, Zebedee and Salome. The businessman and his apprentice, who previously helped the disciples acquire the sermon's location, arrive as well. The apprentice meets the disciples once more and introduces himself as Judas. Jesus walks towards the stage as he begins his sermon on the Mount. The end.
all right, we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
So all right, so episode starts yeah, I think you're just kind of like, you don't know whether. I think at this point I liked it, the intro, because I remember when I first watched it, which was actually recently, I didn't know whether it was like current
Yeah.
or because
flashback.
a lot of their times are we just saw King David in the last or two intros ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
we've had some historical cold opens for sure.
so I didn't know whether this was like the land that I didn't know. So I did that was one thing I noticed. Yeah, I mean, it's a very. What did you think about the beginning? Like, we're just standing on a hillside. It's pretty much death. There's not.
Yeah.
There's not. Doesn't seem to be water. That doesn't seem to be. you know.
Yeah. I mean it's a pretty standard business transaction sales pitch here. You know, these characters annoyed me first viewing and the
Well,
second
yeah.
viewing. I do love how the landowner is like, "What's your lineage?" Like that's. I'm gonna start asking that to all the roofing companies that come and knock on my door like 4 times a
Hey, I
month
see a
during the
shingle
summer.
hanging down. Do
Yeah.
they really come to
Okay.
your door?
Yes, they do a lot because we are missing exactly one shingle on our garage
And they want to come.
every year, multiple times a month. Hey, notice you're
Dude, you
missing a
just got to
shingle.
get up there and just.
Just slide it back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, next time I'm gonna be like, but first, tell me your lineage.
Oh man. Yeah, there's like a phrase that I can picture what that means. And it's not I don't know, it's probably not nice to put on a podcast that is non-explicit. Who are and then fill in the blanks. But that's what I kind of pictured him when he said that. He's like, "What is your lineage?" But like this, like, like I don't know. That's got to be like because he didn't even answer it, and he's like got that salesy kind of
Yeah.
like it's okay. I'm just going to die. I'm just going to deflect this and move on, and you know, um,
Yeah, it's the salesman is very smug and annoying, and of course he has his apprentice there, and they're doing their pitch, and they frame it to the landowner like they're doing him a favor, you know, we'll give you this price, and he's like, well, what if you find minerals or lead or whatever? This could be worth so much more, and the apprentice is like, you're right, what if we find stuff? We should give him more. And the salesman's like, okay, so our company does things in good faith, so we'll give you a few more. How about 49? And then bam, sales done.
yeah. So he walked him into his own sale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely fishy, and I mean, not all salespeople are bad though. They don't.
I don't know.
Oh, get out of here.
Our cabinet salesmen are the worst.
Yeah, right. Um, well, yeah, that's me. If you don't know, I'm in sales right now. So turns out teaching while it doesn't really pay that well. So you gotta pay for the school loan somehow. Oh man. But
Yes,
yeah,
but
so
like all of their
we
cold opens,
digress.
like it's not just a shot in the dark,
Yeah.
random filler of minutes in the episode. These characters will return in a significant way later on,
Mhm.
and much more significant in the full story of our main man Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, so we'll get there. Um does he say his name early
He
on?
doesn't. We don't get his name until the very end of the episode.
Okay. So we'll let you know who he is later.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, no. So it's a pretty quick thing. We don't have to harp on this. Salespeople walk up, they're just standing in the middle of a field. How did they get there? I don't know. Second thing is they swindle this man out of his family's. I mean,
Barren land.
well, yeah, but I mean,
It
this
turns
is
out they are expecting this to be like a huge salt mine. So
yeah, but
that's kind of what they're going
you
for.
also got to think like this land was like I don't. So I actually this semester I've spent my whole time. One of my classes was literally read the book of Ruth. Oh, and then read the book of Ruth. Oh wait, read the book of Ruth, and like over and over and over. And I wrote like things on it throughout the whole semester. And so
Hmm.
one of the big things is land. So
Hmm.
it's an inherited thing, and it's a big thing of like your inheritance is the land, your like law of kinships, like when your husband or wife or his husband dies, right? Like who's going to redeem that land? And
Mhm.
so like this land has probably been in this dude's,
40 generations, to be
exact.
exact.
Oh, did he say 40 generations? Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah. So literally 40 generations of people,
It's a
and he
long
just
time.
sold it to two schmucks, schmeals, two
Yeah.
schmeals
Oh, no, don't. That's the worst insult ever.
in the land. So I mean, that's, and I'm pretty sure Israelite law, there's in that you if you lose your land to hardship, like this would be probably considered large hardship. Like you could buy it back. Like there's a price to buy it back and stuff. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
like pretty intricate laws, which is actually given I think in Leviticus. So in case you were wondering, but yeah, 40 generations, dude is now out of the land.
Yeah,
So
let's stick with their story up until the end of the episode.
let's do it.
Um, next we see these two in like the local tavern or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The business, the salesman, he's like, rejoicing, talking about this sale like it was amazing. They played their parts so great. And the apprentice is kind of like, rightfully so, I think, like feeling kind of crummy because you just swindled this
Mm-hmm.
land out from under this guy, for, relatively speaking, like pretty cheap. um and the salesman's like, look, we gave him 49, whatever they called him. I don't even remember what the name of their, currency is, but we gave him 49. Like, he's not gonna have to work for the rest of his life. Like, he got it. Like, he's kind of got it made a little bit. I mean, we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
make way more money off that once our salt
Yeah.
miners get in there. But yeah, it's like you see that the apprentice is kind of like going through the oh so relatable like existential life crisis where he's like, there's got to be more to life than buying people's land. Like, like
Mm-hmm.
what's the big meaning in all of this? And um he kind of, is told to like, here, take some money, like go take some
Go
time
take some time
off,
by the
go for
beach,
a
think
walk.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
um but yeah, what do you think about the apprentices, like, um I don't know. I don't know the
Well,
right
there's
word,
a
but like how he like felt crummy.
yeah, no, I mean, there's a sense of like moral crisis that he's going through.
Mhm.
Um, and I think, you know, I will say, coming from a point of like, I'm a I'm a trained physicist that's in a sales position right now. Like, it's not the, it's like, I provide for my family well, but like, there's a lack of purpose, and I think that's like there's like this moral, because you want to, it's almost like you want to do good for things, you want to like build something, but when you lack that purpose, you kind of
Mhm.
like, it's, and there's, I mean, in any job you have to find purpose and stuff, but like he's clearly going through it and seeing like
Yeah.
there's a moral thing to it, and like, who's benefiting from this? Nobody else. And I think he's starting to see that like not helping others is a lack of, there's no purpose for anyone else there
Right.
except for him, and it's probably a pretty lonely um spot. So yeah, he's struggling with it, you can clearly see it. And so yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, he's the lack of purpose or like bigger meaning. Like, I think he says, um in this conversation that he like wants to make an impact, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's it's that age old struggle of like legacy, right? Like, sitting here spreadsheeting for oil and gas companies, like, what legacy is that leaving, right? Like, what bigger change in society am I making? Am I leaving an impact by like determining what percentages of oil and gas people own. Myself, not the apprentice here. Like, I'm talking about my job. Um, versus like somebody who is in ministry, right? Who's out preaching, or somebody who's like out serving people like as their job. Um, those, are making life impacts in the people that they encounter, and hopefully for the better, right? Not saying that through my job I haven't been able to, like, one, like you said, provide for my family, make sure we have like a place to live, food to eat, like clothes to wear, like all
Mhm.
that stuff. But like I've been able to use some of my money to like give, bless others, or um, because of the hours of my job, being able to invest time serving in ministries, or like having people over to our houses for meals because we can do that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, there are things I can do that my job helps me be able to do, but like the purpose of my job is not like life changing to people. You know what I mean? I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes any
no,
sense.
it completely does. And so that is, I think, the hardest part, I mean, coming over from non being a non-Christian to a Christian at like a later age, I'm like, I need to quit everything and I
Yeah.
need to go in a minute, like you get this
Yeah.
like sense of like, you're called towards it. So like I really don't think, first off, if you're listening and you're being called to like quit your job to go and like, don't do it until like you've taken a long time to think about it, like, and I just don't like, I don't think that it's just like this, I don't think you need to be in, yeah, I mean, everything's a ministry, right? Like
Mhm.
anything, anywhere you are is a ministry. And not to sound cliche here, but like it is not a vocation. And I think that's the hardest part, to do. So like, I don't know. I mean, I think you can find purpose. I don't think what you're doing is immoral. I think like you know what I mean? It's just like
Mhm.
there is purpose there. And I think that you're talking about legacy, like, you're very like you're very like family oriented. And so like that's a pretty good legacy to have, man. And that's, probably the legacy that that dude had is in his family and his
Yeah. Yeah.
tradition. And like, the that literally that guy just sold his legacy
Mhm.
to some extent. You know what I mean? And I think that's right there is what you're
Yeah.
talking about with this guy, like with this apprentice, is that he's not like, he doesn't understand. He knows he just swindled somebody out of something special,
Mhm.
and it has nothing to do with money or the monetized gains or losses or anything like that. Like he lost something. I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm gone.
I was just gonna say, like, I finally found the part in the conversation where
Oh,
the apprentice says, "Don't you want to do something that will really matter?
yeah,
Um, that will be remembered throughout history," which is really funny coming from this particular
yeah,
character.
yeah, yeah. But it's, I don't know, man. It's such a hard thing because that is
Yeah.
something I've struggled with. Um, because at the end of the day, like if you live that way, like you're gonna chase it. It's like
Mhm.
chasing a dragon, of like
Yeah.
you just don't, you're never going to arrive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're never going to hit that point where you're like, I succeeded. I have discovered purpose. And like, not that you won't discover purpose, but like you know what I mean? There's just
Mhm.
no like extent. And I think that's where like, in my life, Jesus is pretty purpose. You know what I mean? There's like that contentment in not reaching this pinnacle because I don't have to reach this pinnacle, right? Like,
Right.
and the contentment that you find in that is like soothing enough to not get anxious about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to.
No, and I think I don't know if this is something, yeah, this is something we've talked about in a past episode, but I think a lot of times people like maybe the apprentice here wrap up their like purpose in their identity.
Mhm.
And you see that a lot with like our society, right?
Yeah.
When people introduce themselves, or if you like are like, hey, tell me something about you, like what's like the main thing that they reply with? Either like, oh, I'm a husband, or father, like a dad, I got some kids, or like I'm a I don't know, salesman, or I'm a tech, I work at a tech firm, or blah blah blah. Like that's how they describe their identity. And so like we talked about in a past episode, when your identity is found in Jesus and not like your occupation or your hobbies, or in my case, like I talked about in that episode, even your service or your ministry,
Mhm.
like that's where like true freedom and like walking in the power and authority that God has given for your life and given you, that's when that like really becomes unlocked, because your identity is tied to the Father and not
Mhm.
to a a personality trait, or your income, what provides for your family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you were to lose, like say I lost my job, right, and I'm no longer a landman for an oil and gas company, like that's that will suck, but like that doesn't change who I am as a person, because I find my identity in Jesus, not my career.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, like, that could send them spiraling because they identify themselves as
Mhm.
this career choice or whatever. And I think it's kind of what I get the feeling the apprentice is like struggling with at the end of the day. Is like, there's got to be more to life than my job and making money. Like,
Yeah, but it's
this isn't
also
what's fulfilling.
yeah, no, and it's like you can tell he's considering like, okay, so what if I did leave this? What if I
Mhm.
left this? Like, who am I? And that's where like when I, even first thought of the idea of leaving physics as a research, I'm like, who am I then?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something you have to wrestle with. Everyone has to wrestle with that. So, I don't know, maybe that's like our advice for the week. Like, pick that thing that you think defines you. Think about what it'd be like to quit it, and go from there. Don't quit it. Just think about it
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you
see
don't we're not trying
like
to tell you should
who
quit
are
things.
you?
Yeah.
No, it is. It's a hard thing to wrestle with, and that is clear. I like that. That seems to be what we observed in
Mhm.
him in this apprentice. So
Yeah. Next time we see them it kind of involves the disciples. So let's rewind.
can we just
And
fast forward through Shmuel today? Like I can't even do it with him.
yeah, you want to
I'm
you want
just
to do it?
joking. No,
You
no,
want to do
no,
it?
no, yeah, no.
Okay. We got
Let's just
no.
move on. We'll come back to him. I'm not ready. I'm just not
Okay.
ready for Shmuel today.
Uh, all right. So let's go back to the camp here towards the beginning of the episode.
Oh wait, no, did we see him again? Oh, okay. I see what you want.
Yeah,
You want
because
to
we
come
just
back
kind
to.
of yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Uh, yeah. So back at the camp.
yep, you got Mr. Show Off Zealot over here, working out, running up, and I mean
Pretending
even
every twig is a dagger.
yep, yeah, right. Even John was like, "You're Hellenistic, bro. Like you
Put a
know,
shirt on.
put a shirt on. The women are up. Like, come on, get some decency here." And he's just preparing, and he's like, talking about your obsession, and he's like, I'm just trying to stay ready, just trying to stay fit.
Never know when the Romans are gonna come back.
Exactly. And I got to hit him with the stick. Like,
I mean, if there was
uh,
one person I wouldn't want to get hit by a stick of in this group, it'd probably be Z.
yeah, that's definitely true. Definitely true. He's not a real zealot.
Can he be a real zealot if he quit? Probably not.
If he quit?
Yeah, if he quit being a zealot, like he left
Oh,
the order. So I mean, that's not very zealous of him to like abandon his cause.
you don't ever leave the order. The order leaves you. You know, like
Yes, but here at the camp, we got the classic bickering of the group here. But the main gist here is we're still preparing, getting the final preparations for the sermon. Mary's like handwriting flyer invitations. John and James, Big James, are gathering, firewood for future travelers, like they have always done. And they're kind of arguing because Jesus just like is not around. He keeps stealing Matthew and heading off from the crack of dawn to the coming of the night. And yeah, everyone's just kind of still, tensions are a little high, and they're just kind of like, what the heck are we doing? Like, Jesus is nowhere to be found ever.
yeah, I mean, they're just kind of bickering, and so they do need to figure out or no, they already sent them off. Thaddeus and
Little James
Little
and
James,
Nathaniel.
They have all they have vacated the camp, and they are in search of the spot to do the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah. Which is pretty funny because they're like walking through and like rehashing all the things Jesus was like, all right, well, let's make sure it has like, a backdrop of a nice view of the Sea of Galilee. And we got to make sure there's like some gum trees and this, not too far off so we can set up camp. And they they keep going over these very specific things that Jesus told them to look out for. And they're like, it's almost like he already knows where this is going to be or whatever. They come across this like farmer's pasture. There's some like livestock or whatever, and they're like, asking the person who's out there, the shepherd, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, like, hey, is this your land? You mind if we speak to the owner? And they're basically like, get out of here. Like, we don't want to deal with any people. And one of them is like, yeah, I don't know if this is the place. Like, it's kind of garbage. And the other one's like, oh no, that means this is the place.
Yes. Yeah. And so they find themselves in a local tavern. Right? Is that where we're at here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So local tavern. They're trying to get a place, and so they're meeting with one of the local owners that is in that fine establishment, and so they're trying to swindle him into it, and of course it's coming up pretty difficult because they don't have money.
So, yeah, they're not the best negotiators.
About the extent of it is they bought him a drink. So that's about what they got. So they give him that. They're trying to, get into this. They're trying to book the venue. You can't get the venue without the monies. And so our friends, the apprentice and his,
wouldn't you know, they're just hanging out there still.
Just hanging out. And so they intercede here, and they come in, and they're just like, hey, actually, I think you're missing something, Mr. Landowner. I think you're missing the point of which they're drawing thousands to your land. And I thought this was funny. It's like, he's like, now they're going to want to buy your product.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought
brand recognition. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, right. So now the guy's thinking, how do I make a billboard? This
is
like a, but yeah, long
he
story
carves his shears his family name into
Yeah,
his
family name
sheep
is who's his
fur
lineage.
coat. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's weird.
So here we are. They swindled him into agreeing, and so he walked away, and they officially booked their venue. And so yeah, they're happy. I feel like the apprentice and his I don't know, teacher, apprentice. um,
Uh,
I don't know.
yeah,
Either way, he is clearly um feeling a little bit better about himself. Like he helped these
yeah.
people, and so yeah, so he helps them out. They're good to go,
Well,
and
it's cool because like the salesman, you can tell like he isn't like that bad of a guy. He's just like a good salesman.
he's greedy.
Yeah, but like
Not in a bad way of like that. He's like, but he has a motive.
yeah. And here like he's like, see, look, we can do good.
Mhm.
We just helped these people secure a location for this allegedly huge sermon. Like everyone's kind of aware of who Jesus is at this moment. Like they're after this conversation, or after the deal gets struck here, the salesman and apprentice are walking through town and they're like, having this conversation, like, see, we can do good through our occupation.
Mhm.
Um, this I've heard of this guy. Like, what if we go to the sermon, see what it's all about? And the apprentice is like, actually, I would really enjoy that.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. So yeah, that's the last time we see them until the very end of the episode.
Yeah.
And throughout the town, we see, the other disciples passing out the flyers, people who aren't a part of the group, like also hanging up these flyers around town. You have, the stage being designed and constructed by Nathaniel and another group of
His
the disciples.
architectural drawings.
Yeah. So all of these final
It's
phases
coming
of this
together.
sermon are starting to come together. And it's pretty cool to see.
All right,
Except
go on.
when our buddy Gaius and Atticus bring one of said flyers into Quintus's office. That could be a little concerning, but
Yeah. All right, man,
everything else felt fine.
just get it over with, dude. Just get it over with.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, it's time for the chosen PVU. Shmuel, where's he at? Let us know.
I
mean,
don't even
bro, this scene,
I've grown so
dude.
just
Ever since you made the comparison, all I can see this through is the lens of a Law and Order episode,
Yeah.
and it's like to a T, exactly like a Law and Order episode would play out.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this as the lawyers are in like the DA's office, right?
Mm-hmm. What do you mean I can't get the permit?
Yeah, exactly. Here,
Uh-huh.
which one is it? Is this Shimon or
I don't know. I shut down
let's see.
at these scenes now. I'm so over It's not even funny.
No, Shammai. They're in Shammai's office, who is
Shammai,
the
Yanni.
rival of Shimon.
Yeah.
And
Shammai, Yanni, and Shmuel. That's not
yeah,
confusing at all.
yeah, exactly. It's pretty great though, because like Shammai's like, kind of like laughs and he's like, "This is all you got," and you're given like, "Oh, he doesn't think they have much," and then he's like, "This is perfect. Now we need to do this, and we're gonna write all this down, and I need you to go get so and so to sign and date this, but it's got to be a Levite, so that way we can catch Shimon when all this stuff really breaks out. We can say that he knew and did nothing about it, and we can get him and his house disgraced or whatever." But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. They're trying to set a trap for Shimon. Shmuel's like kind of in a weird way, like showing a bit of decency, because he's like, wait, that's not the point of what I'm doing. Like, I'm just trying to screw over Jesus, not like Shimon. Like, Come on, let's get this straight. But yeah, like I just envision this as two lawyers in the DA's office in a
Yeah,
Law and Order
it's
episode.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. You really can't.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's the chosen PVU scene we have in this episode.
is it? I thought there was another. No, nope.
I
We'll just
hope
act
not.
like there wasn't.
Yeah, we're just gonna, even if there was, this is
Yeah,
it.
no, I thought that was it. No, yeah, and that's just really and if you recall I don't know, last time we saw that, or one of the last times we saw them, they were at his what was
Shimon is the rival.
yeah,
Shammai is where they're at now.
yeah, so they were they brought it up to Shimon. Shimon was like, you guys are ridiculous. I don't know what you're trying to do. And then
Yeah.
now Shammai is like, you guys are not ridiculous because it has my best interest at heart here.
Exactly.
Let's take down this blasphemer who's trying
Yes.
to reform God's law.
Yeah.
You know?
What a doofus. They even throw some shade at Nicodemus, which hurt my heart, but we'll just let that pass. But yes, that's season 2, episode 8, The Chosen PVU.
Yeah.
So next, we haven't talked about the whole Jesus and Matthew stuff. So that's kind of like the last chunk of this episode, because really the only scenes we haven't talked about are the two scenes of Jesus and Matthew like up on the ridge, and then of course the very end of the episode at the mount.
And I guess we do have the arc of women here. We have, we kind of did bring it up kind of briefly, but Mary is still trying to teach Rama. Rama.
Mm-hmm.
Rama. I want to say Hebrew, but I think it's Rama. Yeah, Rama. I think that's probably Greek at this point. I don't think maybe it's Hebrew. I don't know. But so he's trying to teach her scripture and how to read and write. And then we also have Tamar,
mm-hmm.
right? Who's now a follower.
Ethiopian woman who's with the group now,
who couldn't unsee it. The one that, Jesus said, your faith is beautiful. She's here. She's on the camp. So they picked up another follower. And so I just wanted to address that because, yeah. So, and she is, nothing like a little teenage angst going on here. She's bringing up, Nathaniel? No.
Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas's love for Rama.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they're
it's like tell Rama that Philip brought apples, but I wanted her to have these apricots because I know that they're her favorite.
Yes. And he's, very doofusy over it. And he's, so yeah, no. So that's that portion. I don't want to forget about that because we gained a new follower here in it. So what else before we get to Jesus? I want to talk about that last. So that's why I wanted to
just skimming through the play bar here of the episode. I think we've covered
we got
pretty much everything except for the ridge scenes. I guess there was the second scene at the camp where there's more bickering with the disciples, and Thomas is like, what if this doesn't even happen? Like, what if this isn't even gonna happen? We haven't seen Jesus around. And of course, like, Simon's just being like, you guys are dorks, like, just chill, it's gonna be good, just do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. But I think that's pretty much the extent of that. We don't have to go too deep into that, but yeah, let's get to the mount, to the ridge.
Yeah, so here we are. I'm trying to remember. Okay, there we go. So essentially, last week's episode, episode 7 ends with Jesus waking up Matthew. And so we don't really privy to any more knowledge on that until after, but which, Matthew's story, if historically has the Sermon on the Mount in it.
Mhm.
So that's where this probably is a very detailed account of it. So that's why they, obviously chose Matthew to do this. But so he woke him up and he's saying, like, um,
Organize.
let's organize. And like, I mean, I'm curious of your thoughts on this. Like, what are your overall? What is your first thought on this happening?
Okay, so we'll just break. We'll point out the elephant in the room. So the big point of contention here is like, does Jesus need help preparing sermons?
Right.
And I am in the camp that the writer of this episode description is. That, like I said, we brought up while I was reading the episode description, the choice of the word to in the sentence, Jesus discusses to Matthew the sections of the sermon, and not Jesus discusses with Matthew
Mm-hmm.
the sections of the sermon. I think that's a very important distinction to make, because there's a difference in talking to somebody and talking with somebody. Like if I'm speaking at you, not
Mm-hmm.
speaking with you. Like, so I read that as Jesus is basically using this time with Matthew as a teaching moment, and he is discussing, air quotes for audio listeners, the sermon with him. And almost like, okay, so your daughter is not old enough to talk yet, so as she ages, you'll come into moments like this. I've had moments like this with my kids, but it's almost like a parental thing where like you're trying to teach your kids something by like walking them through your thought process of it, and almost like asking them baited questions
Mm-hmm.
to like get them to think of the answers themselves instead of you just telling them the answers.
It's the Socratic method, is what you're
Yes.
looking for
See,
there.
you're so much better at this because you're a
Well,
learned man.
no, sure, but yeah, it's Socrates was very strong proponent of like drawing information
Mhm.
out that you already knew, like you already knew the answer. But yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but that's what I see this as. Like, Jesus isn't asking Matthew's opinion on like
Uh-huh.
what his sermon should be. It's like Jesus is asking, air quotes, Matthew how this sermon should go, so Matthew can comprehend what Jesus is trying to teach him in this moment. That's where I sit. Where do you sit?
Yeah, so my whole thing here is like, okay, so I don't think you need to how do I word this? So as he's telling this sermon to Matthew here, like I don't think you need to know, like, whether you know the organized path of how you want to say it or not, like it doesn't take away from the valid truth that you know. Like none of this organizing it takes away from the truth that Jesus has in it, right?
Mhm.
So like I just don't I think I think this gets into the whole thing of like, I think when you put Jesus on the earth here, like or even God in general, I think a lot of times we get this like Harry Potter magic wand out and like in our vision of like, it's just, of course, God is all knowing. And I'm not arguing that, but like he still had to think it into existence, right? Like, I don't know. I like to, so like this, like comparatively, I still think he has to think through it. Like I just do you really like I struggle with this to think that like Jesus is going to be like, all right, here's my sermon. I put zero thought into this and just spoke the truth. Like that's not
Yeah, no, I
I don't
think to the extent of the thought put into it, I think it's like how do I get these people to understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Which is what I was alluding to, and probably didn't explain it very well with the
Okay.
parenting portion, is like, I know how to tell my kid,
To do
well,
okay.
it's that thing where it's like, what does this word mean? And I could just be like, blah blah
Mhm.
blah, but like three of the words in my definition for the answer to your question, you're also not going to know what those words mean. So like I have to sit there even though I know the definition of, like, I don't know, pick a word. Like, I can't think of a word that my child would ask, but like, I don't know. Let's say I don't know why neglected came up, but like, let's say my 7-year-old's like, Dad, what's neglected mean? Well, I could explain. I know exactly what it means, but like, how do I get a 7-year-old to understand what neglected means? So I would
Mhm.
sit there for probably a minute or two and like think of how to tell a 7-year-old what neglected means. And I think to that extent, like Jesus thinking through the sermon with Matthew is like kind of like, how do I get like non-divine creatures to understand the absolute truth of God, you know?
But even so, like, teaching and knowing is so much different. I I honestly, I mean, like, you if you sit here and you ask me a 1,000 physics questions, even though I taught a lot of it, like, there are areas where I'm gonna be like, "I don't know how to explain that to you right now." Like, I don't. I know it. I know it to an extent of, like, I can literally solve a problem with this. I can think through it. I can do, but like there are levels, like, how do you say that? And it also stems from, okay, so how do I teach you this without you knowing the prior knowledge that is needed to go into this as well? So like there is so much more to it than just like repeating this off. And like, and I think we need to look at, like, okay, so what was Jesus's intent by this? Because, the meaning behind everything is different than the intent. I think we talked about this in one of our first podcasts. And so like, what was his intent by this? His intent is like, this isn't a parable. He may have said parables in it, but like, this isn't like, he's at times like, he's very direct in this. Like, I'm looking at it right now.
Mhm.
God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Like, that's not a parable. That's a pretty direct thing. And so, like, when you look at, I don't know, like, it just, this isn't his normal teaching. This isn't his normal, like, off of a cuff, like, I'm sitting in dude's house right now and a crowd comes and now I'm teaching. Like, this isn't that. This is something completely different. You know what I mean? The Sermon on the Mount. Do you see any other of these things talking about it being a sermon? And and so like, when I look at it, like, I just think that, I think that there's a due diligence that needed to be given to this, and he gave it because he's wise. I will never forget this, dude. I went into one of my classes, one of the first times I was teaching, and I did not prepare as much as I needed to. I and it is the most uncomfortable thing I have ever been like that. Not once after that did I ever go into a class unprepared. It was terrible. I had like 30, 40 people just staring at me. And it's early on in the semester. And so like that gives a precedence too of like, so
Mhm.
there's a whole like, area. And so that was early on in teaching, but your face goes red. You're like,
Oh
this
yeah.
is, I was so prepared all the years after that. But so the point here is that like, you don't go into something, like I think I don't know. I guess my wife probably would argue that like he knew this. Why did he need to, but like, but there's still like thought going into it's going along with what you said. There's still thought going into like, okay, I know it, but how is this other person going to hear this? Because there's
Yeah.
there's a meaning behind something, there's an intent, and then there is what this person is perceiving it as.
Mhm.
And so all three of those are very important aspects of the same of the same idea that you're trying to draw, but
Yeah.
they all mean something. They're all different. I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think like essentially we're both kind of saying the same thing.
I think so too. And
yeah.
but also, oh, go on.
No. If you have something more about that, go ahead.
No, I just think that there's also like many different ways to say something. Like the salt, the one thing it had him hit him. I don't even know if it was this episode or if it was a different episode, but Jesus was like, salt, and if it take the salt away, it's not salty, and like he's trying to, and like,
yeah, he's like by the water wordsmithing.
Yeah, and so like, you can convey the meaning that is perceived from that in using different analogies. So it's like, I don't know. I think that some people, I mean, I'm not even putting this on my wife. I'm not putting on anyone. I'm not trying to, but I really do think that some people think it's just this magic wand thing that like, you just know you do it. But like, what's the whole crux of everything? Like, Jesus died on a cross in a very unknown, like, I just don't see like this. It was not. There's some. I don't know how to put like words
one
to
of
it.
the
It's
great mysteries of our faith, right? Like our faith is mysterious. Like so you can't explain things. Like how does a perfect divine being who is Jesus also, like you said, die in the most painful and despicable way imaginable, or die, period, but also like the one who is perfect and exalted above all dies in like the lowest way, like in his culture, right?
Yeah.
Like how are those two things like describing the same person, right? It's and like it applies to Jesus's whole life, his whole ministry. Like how can he be human but like be God? How can he be a person like you and I and breathe air and have to eat food but also like cure incurable diseases?
Yeah.
Like some things like we just aren't gonna know until like we're up there and we could be like, dude, explain to me. You know what I mean? And I think like the whole like humans have brains, therefore we have to process thought. But like God is ever present, all knowing. If Jesus is also God, does he have to think about things?
And I would argue,
So it's
yes.
like, yeah, it's that weird, like, I don't know.
Why did he not just appear then? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he literally had to go through what all of us have gone through and be born. Like, I just don't, I just can't, I don't know. It's maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just crazy here, but like some things I can't separate fully, or I can't just, I feel like some people are just so accepting of like, he just knows it all and this and that. And I just don't know if I just don't know. Like we kind of talked about it when it reminds me, this thought that I'm having kind of reminds me when Jesus was walking up and he saw the person crucified. Or being crucified. Like, we all know that's, how he dies. And so I don't, I think he knew, but it's like, to what extent do you know? Like, what does knowing mean? Like, that's not an easy thing to answer when you know something. Like the idea of knowledge and consciousness and thought, like it's, good luck to you trying to sit here and come to this generalized canonical answer of like, this is what it means. Cause it's not easy. And so, I think that we just put it so simply on Jesus when I don't think it is that simple. And and also like if he knows all this, like that's a lot to know. And I don't argue that he doesn't know it. I think he knows it intrinsically. Like it is ingrained in who he is and his every thought. Like it's never the truth behind the words that he's saying that he's questioning or questioning how to say it. He's just trying to question how to say it. How do I convey this to them? So yeah, no, I think we're both on the same page here. And I'm going to re-argue with my wife on this.
Yeah.
So
I just also side point, kind of silly thing to get caught up on, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Because Jesus is still who, he needs to be in our lives, our Savior, our Lord, like the only important thing, right? Like we know he is who he is. Does it matter if he has to think of how he conveys his thoughts, or like if he just can spout it? Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
To me, it's one of those things where it's like, if we're gonna get caught up on if Jesus has to think, or if like I would be more caught up on like if you're like Jesus didn't perform miracles. That's like, well, I mean, he kind of did, right? It says all over Scripture. That would be a big point of contention, or like, I don't know. I think there are like big things that like matter when people describe or question things about Jesus, obviously, and then I think there are like kind of trivial ones where
And
at the
this
end
is
of
the
the day
trivial
it
to you.
doesn't really like change who Jesus really is. But I guess more of like how he is. I don't know. Maybe it isn't a trivial thing, but to me, it's just like, I don't know. It's a silly thing to get hung up on.
I agree with that. And I feel like these topics jump so much that I don't even think they got it right here. Like I don't even know if so you ever like start talking and then you think about what you're going to say while you're talking? And what typically happens is for me at least, I stop talking. Like, like I just
Yeah.
I actually get in my head. And so I feel like a lot of my, the best things that I say are just kind of from the not the heart, I don't want to say that, but like it's just a natural response to something. And it's not like I said, okay, hold on, everyone shut up for a second. Let me think for like 30 seconds and then boom, here's an answer. Like it's a response to things. So I don't know like to what extent did he say this in the same exact order that so say, Matthew wrote this down. Did Jesus say it in the exact order that he did it? Or you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't know. So, and I guess the question really does come to say, like, did Matthew write this before or after? And that's actually I think probably what made them wrestle with this, because there's nothing. Go search through all of the gospels, and I'm just going on a whim here, but like I don't think there's anywhere else in here that there's this long of a stretch of red letters.
This
I
is a
just
huge one.
it is it's Matthew. If you look through it, it's Matthew 5, 6, and 7 all take up the Sermon on the Mount. Like that's a lot. So like really, I think I like that they did this. I like this because it really shows that they thought about like, was this written before or after? And they landed on somewhere and they said before, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like the first scene, he's kind of trying to nail the beginning and kind of going through the whole salt of the earth thing. The second scene is more so the writing of um, the Beatitudes, and I love that scene so much because as he's saying them, the camera pans to like the disciples that like he's like they're conveying that he is thinking of his disciples as he's like saying these things. Um and man, it was a powerful moment
Yeah.
in the episode for sure.
Oh yeah.
Uh and
It's
it kind of put the lump in the throat for me a little bit.
because so then that actually gets me to a new question. Like, I feel like, you surround yourself by people and you learn from those experiences with those people, right? That's what life is, right? Like, if you're walking through just with no one around you and just walking in a blank screen, what do you learn? Like, what do I
Mm-hmm.
think, at me even being a high introvert, like, I do recognize like much of what I learned through life is with other people. And whether you want to, whether it's through a book, well, guess what, buddy? You're learning from someone else. Like, you're interacting as much as you may be reading a fictional story, and you're interacting with people, or a video game, and you're going through and interacting with story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're interacting with people, whether you recognize it or not, or you're so like, I feel like, I mean, Jesus is learning, right? Or are we? Is that sinful to say? Like, is he not? Did he just come out of the womb like knowing everything? Is that like the argument? I guess that's something I struggle with, like, because I don't know, man. I don't think he came out spewing off things to Mary. Like,
Right out of the womb. He's
yeah,
just
no,
like,
literally, because
blessed are the meek.
yeah,
Well,
the
you're like
reality is,
30 seconds old.
right. But the reality is, Jesus probably came out pretty nasty looking with all the stuff, breastfed, cried, couldn't sleep, did all the, but that's the reality, right? Like,
Mm,
but, or, so at some extent, like, he had to learn, he had to, so I don't know if I buy that he just knows. I think that he knows truth, but like, to say that Jesus didn't grow wiser as he grew older, I don't know, right? Like,
mm.
I don't know if I can buy that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's one of those interesting questions for sure.
Mhm. Sorry. I just can't.
No, no. It's hard to wrap your head around. Like I legitimately don't know.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make for much of a great discussion.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's
like
one of
I that's one of those things where you just your brain will melt out of your ears as you continue to wrestle with
mhm.
the thought, right? Um
But yeah,
sorry.
no, you're
Dry
good.
throat. Give me 1 second.
Yep. So yeah, we are, let's see here. So yeah, I mean, they're still, just trying to organize this sermon that he's going to give. And really, I mean, there's really not much left here. We're here. We're
Yeah, I
here.
mean we get to the mount, like the stage is set up, the crowds are gathering.
The crowd is going
Jesus
wild.
is internalizing there backstage.
It,
They're picking out color for him to wear. Nothing too crazy. Big James and John, their parents are come. Barnaby and shoot, I forget her name. But characters from season one.
mhm.
They come. The salesman and the apprentice are there. The apprentice bumps into Barnaby and he's like, "Hey, you know where I could like get a good spot?" And they're like, "Well, you'd do a lot worse if you didn't follow us because we're going to, talk to some friends, go backstage essentially." So this is where the apprentice meets Nathaniel. And he's like, "Hey, it's that guy from the tavern. Like he helped us get, secure the location here." So Simon comes over, introduces himself, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Simon." And the apprentice says, "Oh, hey, I'm Judas." And there's the big reveal of the episode, everyone.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm
And
Judas.
yeah, Jesus takes the stage. The Chosen pops up on screen, and season 2 is over. But what did you think of the reveal of Judas? Like, did you see it coming, or was that like a shock to you when you heard his name?
No, I did not. Well, all right. Here we are. I knew it was Judas, and the reason why I knew it was Judas is because dummy old me. I waited to watch this episode, and what did I see? I watched the trailer of season 3 before seeing this. No, I know. I was pretty upset that I
You
knew, but
dingleberry.
I know. Well, I didn't think about it. And in the season trailer, it's like my name is Judas, and then it shows Judas, and I'm like, it does that.
Yeah.
So I knew it. It was Judas. So yeah, I think we did actually do very well of saying The Apprentice this whole episode.
Yeah, I mean,
So I
I
thought
did
I was
say
gonna slip.
Judas in the synopsis, but hopefully no one was paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried to be very mindful of not saying his name the
Me
entire
too.
episode. But yeah, I was shocked. Because here I just thought, it'd just be one of the other disciples that hasn't joined up yet.
I'm really Judas is always a hard topic for me to think through. And I'm excited to see kind of what the show does with it, because like even now this is making it even harder for me to grapple like the idea of this, like of him just in general, like building his character. I mean, think about it, just like it, every character, I mean, it's for a story to be good, you have to develop the characters, right?
Mhm.
And so what we're seeing here is obviously these characters, we're just kind of replaying how these characters are kind of being built from what we understand. But like the idea of Judas going from one point to the other is hard. I'm envisioning the him going to the Pharisees for that coin. And
Mhm.
I don't know, man.
Well, it's like,
Um,
I mean, so the Bible isn't like extremely detailed, right? Like, what is the detailing of Judas in Scripture? Like, is he portrayed as just like a scumbag from the start, or do they not provide much detail and say that he was, like he was just enticed by the Pharisee and like greed in the moment, like, um was he like a good dude who found himself in a rough spot and took the coin and betrayed Jesus,
but
or like is he just a scumbag and it was like, oh yeah, like I'll take you to Jesus, you know what I mean? um I don't know, like it's been a while since I've kind of read about Judas,
yeah,
so
no, it's hard because like I literally hold on. Where's my reading music?
oh yeah, sorry, I could just loop Law and Order.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So from my understanding, I'm not going to sit here and read this, but like from my understanding, because we're going to get through this as we follow his story anyway. But
Mhm.
like from my understanding is Jesus looked at him and said, go, like, you know what to do. Like, not really that, but like
Yeah.
pretty much like I thought that was how it was kind of portrayed. Um, right? Like, imagine it, dude. Like, you're sitting at a table and he just disappears, right? And then he goes and betrays, like, right? I mean, is that how it plays out? I'm gonna have to reread this because this is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I right now in my head, I'm like, I don't know if I am pulling up like these like blanks that I filled in through the years of like my understanding of the story, or for what I'm remembering from actually reading it.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting, and I mean, obviously, Judas, wow, I mean, not the greatest moment in history, like we alluded to. The irony of him saying he wanted to be remembered throughout history. Probably
Yeah,
not in the way he wanted to be remembered as,
yeah.
the one who crucified the Messiah, basically. um,
Mhm,
but like, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, that is a dynamite character to like almost as dynamite as a portrayal of Jesus would be a portrayal of Judas. I think,
mhm.
like in terms of just the polarity of a character. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I mean, so far they've portrayed him as like seemingly a good dude, right? Who is seeking after meaning and doesn't come across any different than any of the other disciples we've had so far.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see how he develops and like how he gets to the point or how they portray him getting to the point. And then, like you said, I kind of want to like go back and revisit
Yeah, yeah.
Judas in scripture and see like how he was, described in the Bible.
Well, when we interview Dallas Jenkins
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the future.
exactly.
No,
Yeah,
I
when we get
honestly
Dallas and his round table of theological experts.
no, I think we can get him on the show here. I'm not, it's not like he doesn't know what we're doing. He's,
Yeah, I mean we're on a first name basis,
yeah,
right?
my boy Dallas. So,
Yeah.
no, I really, yeah, we got some time, and I think we're gonna get him on the show eventually. So that'll be fun. I'm dead serious on that. But um, that is one of the things I wanted to bring up because this has got to be one of the hardest character arcs to develop. Jesus is probably a, a big one, and probably something that he gets a lot of backlash on. Any creative, you're playing
Mhm.
with fire there, buddy, and he
Yeah.
knows it, But Judas, I think at that point everyone's kind of like already hate him, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's much easier, but not really because I feel like it's just such a because it's not. I just don't. I don't know. Like it's weird. I just can't. I try so hard to understand his motives, and I just don't know if I can. And I can't. I've tried so hard to put myself in his shoes and just understand like what drove him to go get some coins, get the coins, and then throw them back. Like there's
Yeah.
just this like it's like instant
Yeah.
regret. So I can't.
Talk about a moment of weakness.
Yeah, like
Oh, jeez.
I just yeah, right. I can't. It's just so hard. So
Yeah.
I really do think it's probably a very difficult character to build. And so
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited to see how they do it. But I think they're doing pretty well now. Like just starting him out like, hey, I want to do good, but I don't know how to do good. What's
Mhm.
good? I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
something. Is something
Probably not
bad?
what you're gonna do,
Great,
but
good. And so they're starting out like he's already kind of like struggling. Like he doesn't even, I don't even know if he truly knows what good or bad. Well, I mean, do we any really know? But like, does anyone really know what good or bad it really is? But I mean, I guess we do. We know the extremes definitely, but
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm excited. I'll stop ranting on Judas, but like, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, hey, he's here and we have a whole new season coming up, so I'm sure we'll get plenty of Judas
Yeah.
and plenty of the other disciples. It should be noted too, here in the crowd, Atticus, guys, and actually I think those are the only two. I don't think Quintus came. I didn't see any of our Pharisees, but Gaius and Atticus are there. There are a few Roman soldiers, a
Mhm.
few on horseback. So
So
other than that, I mean, the episode's over, and
yeah,
and there we are,
what do
finale.
you think about this final scene? I do want to ask you that. Do you like it or no?
What him the slow mo
The slow mo
walking?
walk. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
want
would
to
be
say
better if like at wedding receptions when the bride and groom come in and like the bridal party does like the tunnel with their arms, It would have just if they would have done that with the disciples as Jesus walked through to the
Mhm.
stage, I mean, that would just put it over the top for me. It would have been 100% win. But yeah, it's pretty good even without the human tunnel.
Yeah. No, I guess I just mean like, was it too dramatic? Was it like, did it seem true to how it would be? Obviously, there wasn't walking slower than normal with music playing in the background. I like that's not what I mean here.
Yeah.
But like, is
Jesus
it
used his divinity to summon
yeah,
angels to play some background music
or
while he, like, did the
yes.
toddler, like, slow-mo walk while everyone else is in real time. They're like, "What the heck is this
Peter's
guy
phone was
doing?"
connected to the Bluetooth speaker, and
Yeah.
like
"James, I told you to put your phone on silent. Come
yeah,
on."
no. So
Um,
I think
I would
I don't
imagine it
know.
was a big deal, right? Because this is a huge.
No, and that's where I kind of came to the conclusion. I think my wife jumped at it, was like, this is weird. This like last scene of like this kind of like slow-mo kind of might as well be winking at at everyone that he kind of makes eye contact with. But like I think it does, like obviously it's a season ender, so it's supposed to have a little drama to it there. But like I do think it is painting a picture of like again, I can't unthink what I did earlier with the observation of that big long
Yeah, I was about to say,
section of
you
red.
just went over, like, Jesus basically speaks nonstop for 3 chapters.
And that's
So, like,
not
that's huge.
normal
Yeah.
through script, and so I think that they did very well actually. Again, at first I was like, "Eh, I might agree with you," uh,
Yeah.
with my wife, but like I don't it is like just it's awkward for me because any observance like this is awkward. I don't know.
Right.
But
I
like
mean, they have to dial it up, right? It's 1,
yeah,
it's a show, but 2,
and
it's
it's a
the final
season and
scene of the season
yes,
finale.
but
Um
I think they do well of drawing importance to what this
Mhm.
is, and it's something special, it's something different. It's not just this is not just Jesus talking
Yeah.
in the house, and
I would
Jesus.
even go further to say, I mean, along with your observation of the amount of Jesus talk in Matthew in those 3 chapters,
Uh-huh.
I would also say this probably in the, mainstream church, probably one of the most preached on sections of the gospels. I mean, the
It's probably
beatitudes.
drawn from, well, because a lot of these he's drawing on old um he seems to be drawing on old laws too and different things like he
Mm,
talks about, is this where he talks about the plank in your, if you're worried about the speck of a speck in your neighbor's eye, but here you got a plank in yours. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
that's like, and oh yeah, and I say to you, turn the other cheek, and give them the other cheek, and so like the areas that are spoken on, like that was like an eye for an eye. I think that was, for my quick observation here, I'm sure that was like a response to something like that. But I I don't know, man. I think it was a good ending. I
yeah,
think it portrayed it well. So um yeah, it's a big deal, man.
for sure.
Big deal. But
Uh, Great season. And like we've already talked about at the beginning of the episode, I'm super excited to finally see season 3. Um, Very excited to see what happens. I wasn't even thinking about until we talked about Judas in this episode. Excited to see where he goes in season 3. I'm excited to see which disciple takes the next step in growth, like Peter did in this
mhm,
season, or like, I mean, Nicodemus wasn't a disciple, but like in season 1, he was a big character that showed decent growth. I'm
yeah.
excited to see who that is in season 3. Um, and yeah, I'm just excited to get more and to be seeing new stuff I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I don't know about you, but I think in terms of what is being released, if you're listening to this, that means you are getting ready for Christmas. You're gearing up. Hopefully you get some time off with your family and friends and just, you know, enjoy the moments, enjoy the time and just, reflect on what the season actually is. Not to be cliche here, but like, it's a it's an amazing season, and so I don't know, I love it. I think as I grow older, I really appreciate it more, not just
Mhm.
because of anything, just like I really, it's like a time of recentering myself and with aligning, with what God is trying to do in my life and different
Mhm.
things. And so I slow down for once. I'm not a typical person that slows down. I always fill my schedule up with a lot of things, and it's
Yeah.
just something that, like, I love it. So yeah, if you're listening to this, then that means you're gearing up for Christmas. And I think at this point, you're probably going to hear us talk about what are you going to release the is our goal still to release the Christmas special before Christmas?
Uh, I don't know. We kind of had gone back and
Yeah.
forth about when we were gonna be able to logistically record that. But yeah, unless you're like way late to the party and you're listening to this in like next summer for some reason, we hope you had a great Christmas in 22, and we hope that your upcoming Christmas in 23 will be also fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just goofing around there, but yeah, I think in terms of the release schedule for Showboys, if you're listening to this, I am planning on releasing this the 13th or the 14th of next week while you're on vacation, so I don't miss a week. So future me, man, episode 1 of season 3 was fire. I loved it. I can't wait to talk about it. But current present time me hasn't seen it yet because it hasn't hit the platform. Uh, but yeah, I think then we'll be playing catch up the week of the 20th, in terms of like the
Yeah.
first 2 episodes of season 3. But yeah, we will be not forgetting about the 2021 Christmas special, which
Well, because it's technically
yep,
season 2, episode 9 is, I
mhm,
think, the way that they've named it. So yeah.
yep. So that will be arriving sometime either before or the day after Christmas. So
Yeah.
merry early Christmas to you all, or those late bloomers. Hope it was a good one.
Yes. No.
uh,
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And yeah, just hopefully you get some time to relax and enjoy family and all the things, man.
For sure. Make sure you subscribe here. Head over to nerdybible.com. Check out what James is doing over there with the Nerdy Bible. Head over to showboysmedia.com. Check out what we're doing over at Showboys. Like, rate, follow, review, leave comments, talk to us. We love to hear from you. So
Yeah.
let us know what you thought of the finale, what you're looking forward to in season 3. And until next time, shalom. I think that's going to be my sign off. Shalom. Have a good
Shalom.
one.
Yeah.